And so I was trying to think of a question to ask that I could ask to give away this book, and all the questions I could think of were really hard because I'm an asshole. So somebody else thought of another question. So if anybody can tell me what vulnerability's birthday just recently happened, you can get this book. Come and get it. In case anyone didn't get that, it was MS0867's third birthday. And we're still finding it on pen tests, which is sad. All right, so here's Brian.
All right, let me get it. Am I on here? All right, good morning, everyone. If you're still sober enough, it is on. I see a green light. That must mean something. All right, good morning. This is basically how to get fired after a security incident. So basically, to start off, who am I and why am I speaking about this stuff? I'm a senior consultant at CMD Labs. We do incident response forensics. Been doing it for about 12 years professionally. Some years before that unprofessionally. I'm also an intrusion examiner and malware analyst at the DoD Computer Forensics Laboratory out in the Baltimore, D.C. area. I've also authored and co-authored a few books, one of which we just gave away, Dissecting the Hack with Jason Street there in the back. We have another copy that we are giving away for the auction booth for Hackers for Charity. So if you have a chance, you haven't read it yet, go over there and pick it up and bid money for a good cause. So, you have an incident in your organization. This is a talk that's based off my many years of doing incident response work for large organizations, small and medium companies. I've done intrusion investigations for the DoD, FBI, Secret Service, and lots of many companies. And along all these investigations, I've seen many common threads and many common mistakes that are constantly being made over and over and over again by the network administrators and by the security administrators of these organizations. They keep doing things wrong. So this is basically a talk based off my own experiences over the last few years on the common mistakes made by the network administrators of these organizations. It's not based off the Verizon DBIR at all of those little fancy reports that people get paid to do. So some sort of way you have an incident inside your organization, whether it be a malware, phishing attack, spear phishing attack, or some sort of attack inside your network. I'm just going to stand back so it doesn't spike so much. You get a lot, either attacks of your network, malware infiltrating inside the network, phishing attacks, and so forth. Information being stolen, information being leaked out, buckets being stolen. Gotta use this bucket back. So you have an incident. No, I need to get closer. I've only been doing this for 10 years. I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't. So, you have this incident. You are at the wit's end of what you do with the information. In most cases, these organizations only have one or two people who actually are managing the security incident. You maybe only have a one-person network administration. You may only have one person who's actually handling security in your organization. And that person is being double billed for also doing network administration, log analysis, backup tape review, and all these other boring jobs. So at some point, you bring in an outsider to help you. In some cases, this is a outside organization, incident response group. Very large organizations that do this on a regular basis, like Commandant. But you bring in a large organization to help you with the response techniques that you have and procedures inside your company. And for most part, these are groups that you have to assist because in some ways they don't really know how your network works, as shown here. And that will repeat. So we have incident responders like myself who come in, who think we're the gods of the earth and know everything we is, but we do work in conjunction with your existing staff because we really don't know how your doors work, for example. But at the very end of the day, it comes down to you're going to get fired. If not you, then your coworker or someone along the chain of command there is going to get fired on that day. And that is typically how every single conference call starts at the beginning of an incident response, is who did this, who did that, who is going to get blamed for the incident. And the first 2 or 3 hours of every meeting is finger pointing, blame game. It's not me, it was him, it was this person, I didn't do this. And it basically, how do we avoid that situation? This is the number one thread that we see across all incident responses, is that everyone is so freaking worried about getting fired from their job that they cannot respond appropriately to a security incident. So how do we just avoid that situation? How do we do our policies right in the first place so we never have to think, yeah, I might get fired for this, instead of thinking, I did everything I did correctly. There was no reason or way that blame could be placed on me for the incident that took place here today. So in the description, it actually was 12 points. I've reduced it down to 10 because last time I gave this talk, we went for almost 2 hours. Had a lot of good discussion come out of it, and I've made some updates, but I need to shrink it down a little bit. So for the first thing, you're completely oblivious that you were hacked in the first place. And this is actually the most common thing. So you as a network or security guy had no clue that you were actually intruded upon or that information was being leaked out of your network. You have no active or routine monitoring of your network, of your traffic, of your logs. You have no way of doing irregularity searches across your logs, which basically means you have not done a baseline. You don't know what's bad versus what's good inside your network environment. The entire idea of looking for an attack is to look to see what is different today that wasn't there yesterday. So doing a baseline of what typical traffic goes on your network, what typical files or shares are being accessed on a regular basis, and when you see an irregularity of there of some sort, like large amounts of gigabytes of data being flown out to Romania, that's not usually a good thing. But then how do you look for that, and are you actually looking for that in the first place? So most times, the administrator doesn't find out about the attack until after the data has been exfiltrated in the first place, which is kind of not that bad. It gets worse when you receive notification from a third party, which could be the FBI, could be a competitor, could be someone else, or you find out that someone has taken the secret code you've been working on for the last 2 years and released a competing product in another country against you, which is actually very real things we've seen. So to help with this, I kind of made up this nice little DHS chart of levels of obliviousness that you are of your network to a certain attack. Whereas green is a safe zone. So you already have all these rules in place, and the attacks are automatically blocked by everything that you have currently running on your network. So your snort rules are up and running, your firewall rules are up and running, your IDS and IPS is all patched and have good bleeding rule sets to block the attacks automatically as they come in. So at that point, you don't even notice it. It's automatically done, canned, you're safe, you're secure. You look at the log and say, oh, block, 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 we're good. That is a good state to be in, and that's where you want to be in at all times. It's not going to happen. You're going to keep going up in the chain for certain attacks. So to the next point where you had the blue attack, where you actually saw the attack come in, you saw someone doing an SSH brute force user account attack on your networks, or brute forcing into your SMTP server, or doing some sort of attack scan on your networks. You see it, and you block it immediately. You go on your firewall, you take the IP address, and you just say, stop connection to these guys. Let's figure out what's going on. All right? That's a good thing. You're on your toes. You see the attack coming in, you're reactive to it, and you're proactive enough to stop it and investigate further. Most people don't do that. Most people don't even realize it at that stage to actually do something about it, because they usually see it during exfiltration. Because this is the point where all your company's data and gigabytes of files and emails and PSTs and all that fun stuff that everyone wants to read is being leaked out of your network at an exorbitant high rate of speed. And so this is usually where people actually pick up on something bad has happened, is when they see from their ASA devices or Cisco devices these large peaks of outbound traffic appearing on the graph. They don't see it in the logs because they want a pretty picture to show it to them. So then when you see these big red lines appear, it's like, oh crap, something happened. All right. So at that point, you can stop it. You can still put a block in place. You can stop the guy from exfiltrating data out. But you then have to come in a response where some data did get leaked out, some data did not. What did or what did not, and how much does that impact the company overall? Those are some of the more common ones we see is exfiltrations already occurred. Now we have to figure out what was exfiltrated and what was not exfiltrated and what were they actually going after in the first place. And some of these cases where there's literally terabytes of data that has to be flown out, it can only go so fast, which is probably a good thing that most networks have very slow internet speeds. So for you people who keep saying they want to upgrade the internet speed to your network, just deny it, because that means the data gets exfiltrated faster. The slower your network, the slower it gets accurate. So the fact that you didn't see the attack until the very next day, actually very common, where a precise attack comes in, a precise targeted attack, hits your network, the scan, reconnaissance, attack, exfiltration phases all occur within one 24-hour block. And then you get out. They know what they're looking for. They know where to find it. They grab it. They go. They're done. You see it the next morning when you come in, you look over the syslogs that are emailed to you, or you look over all the little reports at your 8 a.m. while you're drinking your coffee, and you see, oh crap, something happened, and it's not happening anymore. Like, it's no longer there, but something did happen. There's a little blip on the radar. So what do we do about that? Actually, also very common, especially in government sides, where long weekends, holiday weekends, Christmas time, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, if you have that holiday weekend, they're expecting you or a competent person to not be there on scene during the attack. So over a long 3-day, 4-day holiday weekend, we see attacks quadruple in size and quantity to large-scale networks because they realize that there's not really a security administrator there. He's at home with his family enjoying barbecue and hamburgers. He's not there looking at logs. There's a skeleton crew there. So you see these numbers jump up. And during those incidences, when the people come back on a Tuesday or Wednesday after the vacation, that's when they realize, crap, I was gone for 4 days, we're pwned. And there was no one here to stop it, no one here to look at it. To the worst case scenario of being notified by a third party long time after the effect. These are embarrassing at all stages. Last one I worked was the FBI notified our customer about it 3 months after the attack. Then they found out the attack occurred 6 months prior to that. So for a period of 9 months, the customer was actually had keyloggers installed on every single workstation inside the network and was leaking data out on a daily basis. And for 9 months, they had no clue of it until the FBI knocked on the door and says, hey, knock that shit off. We see you leaking data out. Stop it. So that was how they were notified of it. That is a worst-case scenario. And all these are going to be on an attack-by-attack basis. The hope is that you get up to the top of the stage, this is bad, you work to make it good again. You see the attack come in, you update your rule sets, you update your software, you figure out how the attack occurred, so that when it happens again, because it will happen again, it will automatically be blocked, and you're notified, it came in again, but we blocked it. All right, so the whole idea is to start building up your incident response plans so that you expect that attack to come again, but you're planning for it, and you're expecting it, and you have it blocked automatically. Or that you're not even owning up to being attacked in the first place. It's a small, nothing really big got out, just a few PDFs. They're password protected anyhow. It's not a big deal. All right, so you as network guy says, look, you look at the data, it's like, yeah, this doesn't seem that big to me. We don't need to notify anybody about this. So you downplay the attack, or the effect of it, you downplay the scope of the intrusion. What I mean by scope is basically the far-reaching implications of the attack. What are the reaches of the attack within your network environment? Be it a single workstation, a subnet, or enterprise-wide. So if a malware infection gets on a single box, administrators likely want to say, it's just a box. We'll delete it, we'll erase the profile, we'll re-ghost it out, we fix the issue. When they don't do a proper scope analysis and see this is actually almost an enterprise-wide attack, it got onto that single box, but it can do SMB mounts automatically and start attacking other machines across the entire network. So if they don't look at that and they don't actually manage and analyze the attack, they have a tendency to downplay the effect of it, to say it's only a single little thing here or a single little thing there. We'll just fix that one little issue and it'll all go away. That is not how you do it, and it's also something we see when lots of vendor products come into play. Administrators who are very loyal to their products. And I love this when you look through the aisles of Black Hat and the vendor booths out there where we can stop APT attacks. I'm going to call Tenable out because they have the banner up there too. I hate that. We can help stop APT from hitting your network. Love Tenable, great company, but anytime you put APT on the banner, you're just asking for trouble. To say that I am going to buy a $50,000 product to install on my network and it will automatically stop all attacks and stop all APTs from hitting my network. That is bad reasoning. Because at that point, you're putting your faith in someone else who's not inside your organization to come in and protect you. You're putting your faith in a product that has issues down the line and can fail on you. So if they say we can't be hacked, we have the most secure infrastructure, we have the most secure devices in the world, that's bullshit. They have vulnerabilities, and that will not help you at all. You still have to manage your network, you still have to manage your instances, and look for things yourselves in collaboration with these products. Use them as a frontline notification support to tell you something weird is going on here, but you should also be doing that yourself. Don't rely on the product to do that for you. We all see this in the DoD side of what they have, STIGs and gold disk scans. STIG is basically a set of rules and procedures. Do these 20 million steps and your machine is hardened. And it will walk you through, click here, type this in, click here, type this in. And when you're done this, you will no longer be able to be hacked. That is how they harden DoD machines and government contract machines. So people say, okay, well, I follow the procedures, I follow the rules. My machine is hardened, it can't be hacked because I followed everything for compliance sake, which is, again, bullcrap. Right? You are following the procedures that were written 2 years ago. They still have to be manually updated, and they're basically just a baseline for securing machines. There doesn't cover any of the new attacks or any new styles of coming into attacking machines. Gold disk scans are the same thing. You pop a little gold disk in your machine, it automatically hardens it for you. DISA puts that out. So people put their faith in these little magical devices or magical rules to harden the machines for them, and you shouldn't. So you as administrator say, okay, well, we have an attack, we have an incident, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to be the guy to fix this issue, get recognized in front of my peers, to get recognized in front of the CEO of the business and president, and be the good guy. So you go straight into fixing the issue without doing a proper analysis of the attack in the first place. Mitigation before anything else is a wrong step. And by mitigation, it's basically, if it's a malware, it's the malware. You update the AV scans and delete everything up, and it's done. You write a report to your boss and say, we had an issue, I fixed it. But then you didn't notify anyone else, and the issue is probably far wider than you expected, or maybe it wasn't an issue at all. Think of the bridge here in Kentucky. Most of you guys flew in from the airport, that 45-minute drive to get here to the hotel because the bridge was closed. The bridge was closed because there were cracks found in the foundation of the bridge. Now think of this in that perspective where you have a single maintenance guy who's working on the bridge. He sees cracks. He's like, okay, this is weird. I'm going to stop the road. I'm going to close the bridge myself. I'm going to put signs up, redirect all traffic. It's done. And he's going to go boss, hey, I found the issues with the bridge. It's bad. I fixed it. I closed the bridge down. We are redirecting all traffic. Yes, there was 9 hours of traffic crawl over a period of months and months on end. But then when they bring the outsider in, he says, yep, those are not really cracks at all. That's not really an issue. So you just closed the bridge down and you caused millions of dollars of profit loss for the entire city because you thought there was an issue there and there really wasn't. Instead of actually calling out for help and calling out for support, you do it yourself. Not saying that's the case with the city here, but we've seen that before in the past where someone sees something that looks bad, they act on it, and then they made the wrong call. It wasn't really as big as they thought it was, but the effects of them managing the issue were more devastating than the actual attack could have been in the first place. So they go into mitigation without actual bringing in help. They don't do any type of analysis of the attack. They don't do forensics, which is basically what files were accessed on that machine and how, what was actually occurring on the system itself, and no reverse engineering or malware analysis itself, which obviously not everyone can do. That's a very technical skill that most organizations and companies don't have the capability of performing. If you do, or you have some sort of capability, you have some sort of reach back capability to do that for you, that will tell you exactly, here's what that attack will do. Here's exactly what that payload is designed to do on your network. And then you could take that, you say, I know exactly how this attack is going to work. I can now put rules in place to block that without guessing at it, as most of these people try to do. So you don't seek help from others. You don't you don't call out to your boss. You don't call out to your coworkers to say, I need help, which is the first thing you should do. We've got an issue. I need someone to double check my findings. I need someone to look at this and make sure I'm not seeing something wrong here. And you don't talk to your lawyers. Almost every incident, you should have your legal team involved in some way, shape, or form, because they will be involved in some way, shape, or form down the road, either to fire you or to go over the process, make sure it's done correctly. You might think, hey, as a network administrator, I don't really care about the legal. that is for someone else to worry about. But there's actually lots of rules about data collection, data analysis, data management, where legal comes in and has a big say in that. If you store a lot of PII or HIPAA medical records on your network, you may not be able to just throw up a Wireshark or a TCP dump and start capturing network traffic during an actual attack. That might be your first gut instinct. You see attack come in, you see network flying around, you see data flying around the network, you throw up a PCAP capture and you start capturing traffic to look at. But then you don't realize maybe there's actual PII data flying around your network. You've just encompassed all of it, put onto a single point of failure that could be hacked later on if someone grabs the entire database. All right, so legal will just really have an issue over you doing this without appropriately looking for advice. Are you making the incident worse by capturing data the wrong way? Are you able, privacy concerns come in as well. Are you able or willing to be able to look at a single machine and figure out what's happened to it if that machine belongs to an outside consultant? Who actually owns the hardware? Who actually owns the actual OS on that machine? And are you entitled to do analysis of it or whatever make issues down the road? Insurance issues as well. Most people are not aware of this, but there is cyber insurance. There's data breach insurance that most companies can sign up for. In the event that you do have a data breach or you do have a security incident inside your company, you have an insurance company that you can submit a claim to help pay you back for that incident. Which is great because these incident responses and these security incident investigations can go many weeks and many months on end and can rack up millions of dollars. So if you have a way to make an actual insurance claim against that, it will save your company millions. But in doing so, the policy usually requires certain policies and procedures to be followed and set. Many companies actually, or insurance companies, require an independent security evaluator to come in and investigate for you. You as a network administrator are not allowed to do the investigation. Someone else to come in, someone who's been vetted by the insurance company. I know that because that's what we do. We come in and we actually help these companies out. And when they've actually started the investigation themselves, they say, okay, we're done. We found no findings. We're good. We're clean. We just want you to look at our notes and verify what we did was correct. No, we can't do that. That is not fair to you. It's not fair to everyone else. And we go in and actually say, you missed a whole boatload of things because you did not know what you were doing. And now, even though you spent 3 weeks doing your investigation, we're going to do it all over again. And you wasted 3 weeks of your company's time trying to do it yourself without first asking what was supposed to be done. Communicate. Talk to someone about this and get the decisions off your shoulder. Don't be the guy to make the decision that makes things go bad. Let your boss do that. Let your manager do that. Say, be the technical point of contact. Say, here's the issue I found. Here are the implications of it. Here's what I think we should be doing. Boss comes out and says, great, we're not going to do that. All right, that's fine. You don't want to do that, but here's the risk of us not doing that. Again, put it up to his hands. Let him make the decision on that. That'll save your job in every single instance. To the point where you don't preserve the evidence of the attack in the first place. And this is actually a very common situation we've seen with network administrators when their servers get popped. Is the server is popped, we need it back up, so I just re-ghosted it. Well, you just put a vulnerable OS back out in the wild that was popped 6 hours ago. You think it's going to get popped again? They're going to keep hitting it. They know you put it back on in place, and they're going to use the same exact exploit on it again to get back onto it. Instead, we know you want your server up. We know uptime is a big issue. Take the hard drive out of it, put it in a safe, wrap it up in a bag, put a new hard drive into the server, and ghost over that. The issue is keep the original evidence, keep the hard drive as it was during the attack. Lock it away so it can be analyzed later on for forensics, reverse engineering, and all that fun stuff. And you have something to fall back on. When you just re-ghost a server and erase everything that's on it, you've lost the evidence. You've lost the ability to actually see who attacked us. What were they using to attack us? And what impact does it have? Is this a dropper? Is this a keylogger? Is this whatever? You don't have that ability anymore because you blew everything away. So that does not help you in the first case. Logs and the malware themselves are critical. We want logs. We want access logs. We want any type of log you can find related to the incident. In some cases, these incidents may not be investigated until 2 or 3 months down the road. is great if you have 3 months of logs on hand. That's what PCI requires companies to have, a year of backup at least that you can get to. But during the time of attack, you know this is an incident. Grab those logs right then. Grab the last 90 days, throw them on a hard drive, lock it up in the safe with the original drive from the server. So it's nicer in one big package. That way, 2 months down the road, when someone does come in and start doing the log analysis for you, investigation and response for you, you don't have to go back and start recovering stuff from tape backups and all the fun little boring jobs that take hours to do. You have it there already. You grab what's on hand during the incident, you put it all, package it all together into what we call a care package. That when someone comes in, you hand it off to them, say, here's the original evidence, here's my logs, here's my notes, everything you need to start working today. Because most cases, when I get on scene, I'm waiting 5 days for someone to restore logs from tapes. And I can do nothing until those logs are restored. Yet I'm being paid to sit there and wait for those logs. To the point of also, other than logs, is the antivirus yourself. Most networks actually I've seen have really poorly configured antivirus policies in place, where either they delete everything on detection, which makes sense, right? You have a virus, you have something bad, you want to delete it, you don't want it anymore. But what if that attack, or what if that malware was actually part of a larger attack that you're seeing on your sister divisions or other networks of partners? How can you make that comparison? How can you compare what you got attacked with what you're seeing down the road, or what you see 6 months later in a different attack? Quarantine. Quarantine this stuff off. Keep it available. Obviously, password protected. Most quarantines used by software, they do XOR byte encoding of the data so it can't actually be run. But keep it somewhere. If you just delete it all and say you're done, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you have no way of going back and giving it to someone else and say, tell me what this file does. And tell me, have you seen this before, and will we see it again later on down the road? To the point, too, that in many organizations, they have their core servers that are automatically updated with antivirus rules on a daily basis or even hourly basis in some situations. And then they have other secondary tier servers that they don't really care much about. They check them every now and then to make sure they're getting updates. But then there's some servers down the road that are actually getting no updates at all, and they don't realize it for 9 months on end. Until the attack occurs, they do a full policy search of the network and realize, oh crap, we've got 300 machines over here that have not been receiving antivirus updates for a year. This is bad. So while those guys are on the plane flying in, I'm going to update the antivirus on all the machines. Okay, that sounds reasonable. That's actually a bad move. Because by doing so, we actually have a payload on that machine. We actually have an attack on the machine. By doing an automatic update across the board of all your antivirus, you are removing that from play. Instead, treat it as a crime scene. That machine has been intruded upon. Keep it as it is, lock it away, put a new thing in place. But when you start making changes across the board policy-wise and technical-wise to your machines, you are trampling all over the information that's needed to actually respond appropriately to that attack. To the point, too, of submitting that AV sample, the virus sample, to a vendor. A lot of large companies do have dedicated vendor support from antivirus companies. So if it is a large-scale attack, they will send a representative in. One response I did 7-6 years ago, we had CA flew out 2 of their guys. Microsoft flew out 2 of the reverse engineers. It was 4 or 5 0-days used in conjunction for a very large defense contractor. Large attack. This is probably the largest, hugest thing I've ever seen. And CA was there with their antivirus people on site. Worked with the Microsoft team. We worked with the incident responders. We worked with 30 of the security teams on staff. And we fixed the issue. It took 6 months. But CA was there. They had the appropriate people in place to call in and help them with that. But for smaller organizations and medium-sized organizations, they don't really have that one-on-one technical support with someone who can fly out to analyze something found in the network. So they rely on online sandboxing, like VirusTotal or Jotty's Malware Scan, or these different little online engines where you upload the virus, you upload the malware, and it'll say, this is bad. That's it. And what it does is it looks for an MD5 hash. It takes that file, makes an MD5 hash of it, and compares that. It indexes it by the hash number. You know who else has a hash number? The attacker. He knows what he put on your network. And he is scanning VirusTotal, he is scanning Jotty, he is scanning those sites on a daily basis to see if you are also doing that. So he knows when you submit a sample to one of those sites, because suddenly there's a profile there. At that point, he knows that you have actually, at that point, you started responding to his attack. So the capability of most administrators want to quickly upload something to see if it's bad or not could be bad to your company. He knows how fast your response team turns around on things. He knows how fast you respond to incidences. He knows that you do upload stuff to an outside server for analysis. So in many cases, hold off on that until someone better comes along. Have an internal sandbox system. Norma Sandbox, CW Sandbox, they all have these little internal ones you can put inside your network to actually do that for you without having that data leave to go somewhere where the attacker can see it on his end. And then properly manage logs. I hate logs. Everyone hates logs. Logs is I can say lots of offensive things. It's not the fun job of the industry. But someone has to do it because they're doing it wrong. This is a great picture. Disciple Jew took this in the Fort Meade area of Baltimore. Very secure area, very secure facility. And you see what's wrong with this picture. This is how most people set up their log management. Is, I have a solution. I've implemented it. I can go back to drinking my coffee. It's like, great, you have a camera system. Is it orientated correctly? Is it actually capturing the data you want to capture in the first place? Or are you just happy to say that you have a solution in place and be done with it? So the fact is that a lot of companies don't have log management. Large companies do. Small, medium-sized companies, most times don't. So they don't have a way to actually look at what is going on in the machines on the networks on a regular basis. If they do have log management, they're not actually capturing the correct logs, or they don't know what to collect in the first place. I always say if you have almost everyone has Cisco devices. If you have an ASA or a PIX router, you have some sort of firewall in place. Learn the logging capabilities of that device because it's very powerful. It can capture thousands of entries if you know what to capture. And so most people will collect for TCP and UDP outbound connections. I want to know what my users and my customers or people inside my network are connecting to on the internet. So 302.1.3 and 302.1.5 are outbound TCP UDP connections. I want to grab that. But there's a lot of information you lose if you just grab that. That's one half of the equation. 302.1.4 and 302.1.6 are the closures of those same sessions. Basically, give me the start and give me the end. And the end has a nice little extra tags on it say, here is the total duration of that connection, and here's the total number of bytes sent over that connection. And so when we look through multiple gigabytes and terabytes of log files, we'll look for those signatures. Those are indicators. Show me every connection that had over 2 gigabytes of data being sent out, or 1 gigabyte, or something that looks unusual. Show me everything that has over 100 megabytes here, or show me any connection that's lasted longer than 10 hours. At that point, you need to call your doctor for help. So look for the long and large duration packets going on. But if you don't have the right logs configured for that, you can't do it. You can't. You can't go back and do it later. It's a one-shot deal. If you don't have it set up correctly the first time, you're done. You will not have the data that you need to answer those questions. So there was no cheat sheet. There was no little checklist of here's what you must have. This is all based off experience. You look through, you look at the response, you have your questions you need to answer for your president or CEO, and you can't answer those questions. And you say, oh crap, why can't I answer those? What do I need to change so that next time I can answer them? And you work on your way and you improve your system that way. To the point that most companies also don't have any preservation of logs or appropriate preservation. The various compliance rules or regulation rules like PCI require you to have, I believe it's 90 days on hand and 1 year backup, to quote. So somewhere along those lines, well, if you do follow regulatory rules that say you must do that, you probably do have logs on hand. If you don't, if there's no one actually looking over your shoulder to say you must do this, most people don't retain logs for any more than a week or two. I mean, it's silly the number of instances where I have basically 1 day of logs or 1 week of logs. I can't answer anything with this. There's nothing we can do with 1 week of logs. To large organizations, we tell them we need 1 year minimum. We've had cases that we've had the logs of a single attack stretch over 2.5 years. From initial reconnaissance to attack to exfiltration to cleanup was a 2.5 year period on a single network for a single attack. And they do that by habit. They do that by design. They know that you only have so many days of logs on hand to look at, and so they space out their attack phases to fall outside of that log window. So they'll do the reconnaissance. 9 days later, they'll just do a quick little ping to make sure that machines are still there, and then they'll move on to the next stage. And then they'll wait, and they'll come back to the next stage. So having these small windows of logs is great for space savings. I don't know. Hard drives are cheap. Buy your terabyte hard drives, just throw stuff on hard drives and keep it backed up. Space is cheap, storage is cheap. There's no reason to have small windows of logs available to you. So, and you're not tracking your incidences. So by tracking, basically, 2 months down the road, I come in and say, have you seen this before? Have you seen this type of attack on your network before? Oh yeah, I think we did about 2 or 3 years ago. Can you pull up the details for me? Where are they stored at? Oh, they're in an email. Actually, about 4 or 5 chain emails, and let me find the whole chain for you. That is how most companies are actually tracking their instances, through emails. They know who to look for, but when someone quits and their emails are gone, you lose some of that tracking. So tell everyone you need a database. You need some sort of security tracking database on site. There are dedicated security incident response tracking databases. All they are help desk systems. It's just a basic help ticket system like RT. I won't say most, many companies use RT for help desk stuff. It's great, open source, web app. They have one version called RTIR, which is RT for incident response, which is basically a help desk system that's been rewritten with all new forms that are related to a security incident. So that you can track, here is the indicators. Day 1, I see suspicious traffic coming in from these 4 IP addresses. Day 2, I see some really weird TCP ports. I'm handing this to this guy for him to look at. He pops in, looked at them, this is no malicious, I see this type of data coming in. This is weird, encrypted, encoded data, I don't know what to do with it. But then 6 months down the road, when another attack comes in, I see some weird IP addresses, let me search the database. Let me see if we've seen those before. Oh yeah, we've seen something on the same net block a few months ago. Oh, I've got some weird ports. Oh, it's the same ports from this attack. I got some weird malware. Oh, it's the same malware from this attack. You have something to fall back on to quicken your response to a situation. You don't want to start and recreate the wheel every time. Use your past experiences and build onto them. Because you will be hacked by the same exploit over and over again. You fix it once, chances are you didn't fix every single point of vulnerability inside your network for the exploit. They will use it over and over again because hackers are forces of habit. They like their favorite little tools, and they'll keep using those favorite little tools as much as possible. And they'll keep just find new ways to use it inside your network. To a point where you also, as you're building this database, you are disrespecting the indicators that you have in front of you. This was the, kind of hard to see it there, but the Calgary riots. Toronto riots. Earlier this year. What is an indicator at this point, and it's kind of hard to see there, maybe not, but what is something we look for in this picture to say, to build a suspect profile? Namely, the guy's shoes. You can see it, they're bright orange and bright blue colored. It stands out. So if you take a group of 3,000 people, you rally up, you actually seal off that block of space, which is, police will do, and say, take everyone in this area, put an APB out on someone wearing orange shoes. They'll actually grab probably 3 or 4 people. You narrow down the window from 3,000 known people to a handful that you can now pull in together and say, do they look like this guy? Based off an indicator. The indicator was a shoe color. That is what we use for network instances, is what is a weird, unusual, unique indicator of this attack that we can come back to and look across our network or look in the online antivirus sites to see if there's a well-spread or known attack that's dangerous to us. So antivirus vendors like McAfee, Symantec, Trend Micro, they have these great online databases where they will take a sample and tell you what it does. Most cases are really wrong, or they're just really badly written to the fact that they may not help you at all. And if you put your faith in them, you treat them like the Bible, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because you take that sample, you say, okay, this looks almost identical to this online virus here. I'm going to call it that virus. We now are infected with this virus. You start seeing emails around. We have this virus. And the CEO picks up on that. We are now infected with this virus. We go out to the outside vendors and tell them, we need help with virus XYZ. So everyone starts building up this profile to help stop virus XYZ. Someone comes in, does an actual analysis of malware, says, this is nowhere near XYZ. This is something completely different. So you spent the last 2 weeks building a profile to help stop an attack that's not there. Because you read somewhere online that looked very similar to what you have to an XYZ. So verify and examine it yourself, double check everything, and check the dates and times on those write-ups. Because over a year period, what they have submitted to their site can change greatly. Even in fact where they say that they have a 60 kilobyte file that they analyzed, and yours is 100 kilobytes, there's a lot you can do in 40 kilobytes of shellcode. A whole lot you could do. You only need 7 kilobytes of shellcode to write a rat. Very small code in that space. So don't expect those write-ups to answer all your questions. There may be more and additional capabilities into that new version of the malware. Malware has versions. There's a 1.0, there's a 1.5, there's a 2.0, there's 2.5. And every new version has new features, new capabilities, new encoding, and new encryption. So you might see a write-up for version 1.0, but on your machine you might have version 2.0, which has a whole bunch of new encryption and encoding techniques and does a whole different way of scanning your network that you are not actually expecting. So do your own analysis. Here are things that we typically look for is the connection ports, the URL GET requests if they're there, what file system artifacts are there between files, registries, and so forth. To the point of also doing memory analysis to see what strings are currently in memory. These are the things we look for to gather indicators to see exactly what this thing is. I'm going to speed up here a little bit. Miscommunicated about the attack. So how can you get fired from this? You shared information with an outsider without senior approval. So you go out to drinks with someone and say, hey, yeah, we got hacked by this attack here, did this and stole this information. Then you don't realize everything you just said was under NDA. And everything that you just work on is actually under NDA as well, and you just told someone in the bar somewhere that you don't really know that well. To the point where also you're sharing it maybe at a conference, actually maybe on stage, on camera, where people are recording you, and then you get actually published interviews about that to the press, which happened with the Pennsylvania State Security Administrator 2 years ago at the RSA conference. He did a great talk on here's some vulnerable software that we had on the network. We had an attack. We fixed the issue. Here's how we fixed it. Here's how we safeguard against that attack now so it'll never happen again. That was his talk. It was a great talk. Got back home, he was fired. Boss says, you were not cleared to talk about that with the outsider. You're fired. He lost his job. There's no way to get it back. Because he did not seek approval for talking about that topic elsewhere. Or you did not share the information with those who do need to know it. So does your organization have a contact with a law enforcement group? FBI has the biggest massive database of intrusion indicators in the world. They know every single type of attack out there, and they know how to look for it. And they are monitoring constantly for companies that are beaconing out known indicators of an attack. Because they have to investigate these attacks of large-scale corporations in America. So they know this information. So it is behoove of you to inform them when you do have a large-scale attack to say, we have something bad here. Can you help us? And the FBI will come and says, hey, that is bad, and we've seen 4 of your competitors have the exact same attack over the last few months. We can't tell you who, but we're going to share some notes to you from their analysis on how you can fix the issue inside your network. If you have a good FBI agent, that's how it'll work. Most of them are bad agents, and they'll just say, fine, we'll record that and we'll call you back later. But sometimes you actually go one, and you can actually get some help out of them. If you're a DoD contractor, a large-scale or a government contractor who's in the defense industrial base, there's what's called the DICE, the DoD Collaborative Information Sharing Environment, which is basically where you can anonymously submit your attack and intrusions to the DoD. The DoD will then compare it to all other attacks going on simultaneously and say, we need to have a conference call because there's a large-scale attack going on. And they'll grab you and you from all these different companies coming together under NDA, and say, here's how we're going to fix this issue. Let's screw this computation stuff. We have a large-scale attack. They're leaking information here, leaking information here, leaking information here, and you look like you're going to be next. So here's how we're going to start blocking stuff on your network. So if you have that relationship with these companies, use them. Notify those people. Client-attorney privilege, I want to talk really quick because the last time I went for half an hour on this because we got a good discussion. Client-attorney privilege is there for a reason. Basically, you as a company work through your attorney to talk to outsiders. You don't talk to the outsider. You as a network guy never talk to anyone outside your company, ever, about the incident. Your attorney does. And through client-attorney privilege, all the information is covered under U.S. privacy laws. So that if someone does do an investigation, it will never fall back on you. It is all privately maintained information. But the second that you talk in public about the incident, you have bypassed that client-attorney privilege, it's gone. It is completely shattered. And so all the information is now leaked out. So the issue with that is that some companies have very large-scale attacks, and then they see the actual scope and the cost and the effort it's going to take to clean it up, and like, oh my God, we can't do this. It's like if we actually respond to this, we're going to go bankrupt. We have no company left. So it didn't happen. And then NDA, everything, it's all gone. But then as soon as, and that's all through the lawyer. So the lawyer talks to the incident response groups. The lawyer talks to the outside agencies. The lawyer does everything. Everything's under client-attorney privilege. It happens on a daily basis. It's fine. It's all protected. But as soon as you, as a network administrator, security guy, go out and start talking about that, now it becomes loose and open, and now people can start investigating that, and it can actually bankrupt the entire company. So I can go a lot more on that, but just remember, there's usually a client-attorney privilege there for a reason. Work through your lawyers for anything related to an internal incident that you're managing. And don't tell the hackers. Don't tell the people attacking you that you're investigating that response. So don't ping back their IP addresses to see if they're still there. Don't hack back their machines. I know you want to. I know you want to. I know, just try not to. Use air-gap machines, which is basically take a machine that's not on your network, has no network connection at all, and do your analysis on that. So that if for some reason something happens and it starts making beacons out to some foreign country, it will never go through. People like say, hell yeah, I'll analyze this. I'll even do it in a VM because VM's safe. No, still not that safe. It can still beacon out through the right exploits in VMware. Don't use online sandboxes as much as possible because those are being monitored by the attackers. And who has lookups? We all do that. You see an IP address, you want to do a NetBlock look, you see a weird domain name, and you want to do a who is lookup. Who owns this? Oh, look, it's a company in this country out here in the Eastern Asian Pacific Network. But what if the attacker owns the name server for that domain name? Then he knows who's doing a who is lookup on his domain name. He can see the requests come in to query that domain. So at that point, don't make any connections at all related to that attack to the outside world. You might think, okay, well, how do I get the information I need? It's in your logs. You have DNS logs. You have these logs in place already in your network to gather this information for you. Let the expert take care of it. That way, if he screws up, it's on him, not you. And finally, you did not learn from the attack at all. You did no after-action report or hot wash. This is basically military terms where basically everyone gets together in their conference room for a week and just says, here's what happened. From start to finish, here's what happened, here's what I did to it, here's what I'm going to fix in the future. This is the point where you just be honest, you say what you did, you say what happened, put it all out there, you take your hits, say, I screwed up, and here are the risks that now came up with that, and here's how we're going to fix it next time. Incident response plans, I know they're finishing up, so I only got about 3 minutes left. 2 more slides, I'm fine. I don't want to start banging on people about incident response plans. We all know what they are, we all know we need them, but no one ever writes them. We know we need it. That's one of those old things where it's like, yeah, I'm going to cut the yard. I'm going to mow the lawn. I'm going to do, yeah, it's on my list. I'll get to it. But you do need it in place, and you need to constantly be updating it on a regular basis. After every single attack in your network, you need to go back to that plan, make updates to it, and put in there at least case studies. Here's what we saw, and here's how we fixed it. Oh, we have a brand new spear phishing attack that's attacking our president and our financial people. Here's how we're going to fix that in the future so it never happens again. So how do you save your job at the very end? For one, Don't use your common sense, because that's what causes most issues in the first place. Use your paranoid senses. From day one, think, yes, there's a chance I'm going to get fired. How do I make sure I'm going to put all my ducks in a row? So whenever your boss calls you at 3 a.m. in the morning and says, get your ass here to work and fix this issue, you document that. You write it down. Think every time that this can be used against you. Every time someone pulls you in the hallway and says, I need you to do this, say, shoot me an email about it, and I'll do it. Or at least write it down somewhere. So that 2 months down the road when they say, well, I didn't ask you to do that. You were not supposed to do that. Well, actually, yeah, you did ask me, and you sent me a written email about it, right here in print. All right, so be paranoid about this and document every single one of your actions and document other actions that people tell you to do. But take the high road as well. It's very easy and very common to point out other people inside the organization and say, well, it's because of this guy that this happened. But in some cases, no one gets fired, and you're going to be working with that guy for the next 10 years. So don't make it hard. Don't just start pointing and blaming other people. But when all else fails, I tell people, be very cautious, but sometimes it's great to drop the A word, APT, and just say, hey, this was a very advanced attack. I couldn't have stopped it. Google got hacked. Hey, if Google got hacked, anyone can get hacked. So there's nothing we could have done to stop this except give us more money and a higher budget. CEO's like, okay, if Google got hacked, we can get hacked. Okay, fine. Here's another $1 million. So use that sparingly, but it's actually a really good concept to just drop the A word and say, this is a very advanced attack. I couldn't have stopped it with what resources I had on hand. So with that, I thank you guys all. I'll take questions afterwards, but let's open this room up for the next speakers. And also, I've got a few shot glasses left up here if anyone collects them and wants to pick up some. But thank you very much.